the grade 12, there was something in this question that I only found out this morning was actually not in the syllabus, which is going from a quarterly interest rate to a monthly interest rate. But you, because Mrs. Courts apparently heard her class and she went to check the syllabus. So it's in the textbook, but it's not in the syllabus where you have to go from a certain, like a compounded interest to another compounded one. But they can ask you to go from like quarterly to effective, or effective to a nominal one. All right. So this I suppose was like a problem solving thing. I also don't think we already did examples like this last year, but just so that you are aware of what was going on here, they gave us a quarterly interest rate, right? Compounded quarterly, but at the end of every month, an amount went into the account. So you can't have a quarterly interest rate with a monthly payment. All right. So for this one, you actually have to convert the quarterly interest rate to a monthly interest rate before you could use it in your formula. But like I just said, this actual calculation of going from quarterly to monthly is not in the syllabus, but going from monthly to annually, which is effective, that is in the syllabus.
So like the easy version of it.
Yes, yeah. So not going from 4 times a year to 12 times a year, but you could be asked to go from 4 times a year to 1 second. All right, which is the effective interest rate. So guys, what I did here, and I think I did also write on the board the other day, you are using this formula. Right, I was using that formula. And then the one that I was looking for was the monthly interest rate. So on the left-hand side, I put this over 1200 to the power of 12. And then the one that we had was quarterly, so I put it over 400 to the power of 15. So you don't have to know this. But guys, I don't know, maybe they can put it in as a problem solving thing, because it is an application of the formula that you have. So maybe in finals they could use this as problem solving. All right, and then after that, guys, when you are now checking your future value formula with the monthly payment, you're now going to use the monthly interest rate. So this one that you calculated there, you're going to use in your formula. Okay, not the quarterly one. So that was kind of like the problem solving question. All right, so guys, like I just said now, not technically in the syllabus, but I think it could possibly come up as a problem solving thing because it is an application of a formula that you have to know. All right. If you get something like this, it won't be problem solving for you guys. We've done this example now. I have seen in the past, especially that interesting that you were talking about earlier, that came up in the past paper and they classified it as a problem solving. Or traffic signal. I suppose this is the one that I'm solving for on the even then like I the subject here.
Wait, so they're like very, okay. Very.
I'll have to check the exam writing. They're writing on it. Okay, guys, what do you want to do this one? Number 7. All right, guys, this one was very important. Exercise 4.5. And the thing also with past pages, if something was in an exam as problem solving, then after that it doesn't count as problem solving anymore because they say, okay, it's out there, it's not unseen anymore. So they can ask you something like this, which was exercise 4.5, and it won't be classified as problem solving anymore because they know that all the teachers now would have seen it and we are supposed to show you guys how to do it. Okay, so guys, it's really not that bad. I know if you haven't done it before, then it is a bit confusing, but I'm going to explain to you now. So for number 5A, they just ask you to find the monthly payment here. I'm not sure what it was. Let me see a loan of some sort. Page 108. Page 108, number 5. Okay, so for the home loan. All right, so you buy a house, takes out a loan for 1.4 million. Oops, sorry, the interest is 9.5% compounded monthly. What is the monthly payment if it's repaid over 20 years? All right, so you calculate X there. We'll find that present value formula, right, equal to the loan amount, and we are calculating it. 12 times a year for 20 years. All right, we find that one. Then for B, they wanted you to calculate how much money you paid in total over 20 years. So now guys, that's not 1.4 million, right? The loan is 1.4 million, but what he actually is paying is each monthly payment, and then he's paying that for 240 times, right? For 20 years, every month he's paying this 13,049 rand. Okay, so if they're asking for the total, how much money does he pay in total over 20 years? You're going to take the monthly payment multiplied by the number of months. All right, so if it was a quarterly payment multiplied by the number of quarters. I think this, you guys should be all right with this one. Okay, how much did he actually pay? So the loan of 1.4 million, he will have to pay 3.1 million, right? If he's paying it back over 20 years. Okay, then for C, calculate the balance remaining on the loan after 8 years. So this is what I taught you guys the other day, that formula where you are taking the 1.4 million and you are adding 8 years worth of interest to it, right? Using the normal compound interest formula. Then from that, you are subtracting the future value. So this has to be your future value formula, guys, of all the payments that it actually will make over 8 years. Okay, so compound interest minus future value of all the payments that it will make in the 8 years. Okay, from that, you are getting 1.1 million. So that's a bit upsetting, right? He borrowed 1.4 million. For 8 years now, he's been paying 13,000 rand every month. That's a lot of money. And he still owes 1.1 million after 8 years, right? So now in D, guys, this is the important thing here. This is the question that was classified as problem solving in the past. How much interest did he pay in the first 8 years? All right. Now I tried to write this out. You might be able to do this kind of in showing less steps, but I wanted to write it out as clearly as possible. So guys, in 8 years, right, you need to first calculate how much you actually paid in 8 years. Okay, so that was the first thing that I did. Actual amount paid, that was the monthly payment times 96. Okay, that's how many months there are in 8 years. All right, on the side here, monthly. You might want to write this down as like a little formula. Monthly payment times 8 times 12, right? That's where the 96 comes from. The monthly payment multiplied by the number of months in 8 years. Okay, so in 8 years, this guy paid 1.2 million rand on a 1.4 million loan, and he still owes 1.1 million. Yeah. 9.5% of that is quite a high interest rate. Not really, yeah, isn't it like a 7 point something? What is it now? So put it in. Okay, are we fine with this first step, guys? If you can't remember the whole thing, at least just calculate how much this guy paid in total over 8. Okay, monthly payment times 8 times 12. Now, what we calculated here is the amount that he still owes after 8 years, right? So the next thing that you're going to have to calculate is how much of the actual loan did he pay? Because we know that he paid 1.2 million, but the majority of that was interest. Okay, so we need to calculate by how much did the loan actually decrease, right? That's what we call the capital amount. So he borrowed 1.4 million, but he still owes 1.1 million. All right, so you calculate how much of the actual loan amount, the capital amount, did he pay off in the 8 years? And that's only 281,000. All right, so to get that, guys, you take the original loan amount minus the balance on it. Okay, so I'm going to write this here. Original loan minus balance. And you'll see if there are something like this in a paper exam, it will normally follow on, just like it did in this one, after a balance on loan switch. So this is all right, so you take the original loan, which is 1.4 million, minus the balance, the amount that he's actually still owing on the loan, which is 1.1 million. So now guys, to put this into kind of perspective, we paid 1.2 million, but he still owes or wait, he paid 1.2 million, but he only actually paid 281,000 of the loan. So what is all that extra money that he paid? Okay, so the interest amount that he paid is your total amount paid minus capital amount that's been paid. So he paid 971,000 on just in the first 8 years. Okay, so here I'm just going to move to the side slightly. Interest amount paid is total amount paid minus capital amount paid. Sorry, I went to guys, a question like this can be one, can be 4, 5 marks. Alright, so that's a good one to have. And I remember when it was in the paper, lots of teachers were saying, because I always go to like a paper discussion afterwards with teachers from the whole area, and many of them were saying like they've never seen a question like this before, but it is in the textbook. Okay, so yeah, it hasn't come up after that again, but it could. Does it make sense though, guys, the calculation? So like I was saying, you could do this all in one calculation if you wanted to. I don't think I would suggest that, but you could say like interest paid is equal to, and then you can do this amount, this calculation in brackets minus this calculation in brackets, and then you'll get the same answer. So that's, yeah. Up to you how you want to do that.
Well, how was the question off now? Just like,
How much are you?
No, how much interest did he pay for those 8? No, that's fine. I mean, Robert, this is all you can do. Is it all right? All right, for E, calculate his monthly repayments if he chose to repay the loan over 15 years. So now it's the same calculation as an A, but now we're just working with 15 instead of 20. And then they were asking you for F, how much money does he pay over 15 years to repay? All right, so you have to take your monthly payment multiplied by 180, that is 12 times 15. So that's a big difference, right, guys? If he's paying over 20 years, he pays 3.1 million. But if he's paying over 15 years, he has to pay 14,600 rand a month instead of, what was it, 13,049. And look at that amount that he's actually saving in the end. He would actually be paying 500,000 rand less. So that's what they were asking as the second part. How much money does he save by reducing the repayment period by 5 years? So you take the total amount paid over 20 years minus the total amount paid over 15 years, and then the difference is the amount that you paid. So guys, exercise 4.5, number 5. If you didn't do it, then maybe just make a note of this so that you can look at it again. I'm not sure if it comes up again. Yeah, so in number 10 as well, it's a similar type of question. So number 5, if you want to practice another one, same exercise number 10. Any questions, guys? Exercise 4.7, this is an easy one. Did someone say no? They asked you, thank you. Actually, this guy dreamed of becoming a millionaire and traveling to. When he was 30 years old, he invested 200,000 rand with an investment company. You can definitely go to New York with 200,000 rand, but a million would be better. If the interest rate was 8.5% compounded monthly, how old was he when he achieved his dream? Okay, so his dream was to become a millionaire, right? Yeah. So he wants £1,000,000. So guys, it's just a straightforward, because it's just one, sorry, because it was just one payment, right? It's just an compound interest question. It wasn't he's investing a certain amount every month. So it was just a straightforward interest rate and find age. And then if it was 228, now you must be careful here, guys. If you're getting 8 here, n is the number of months, right? Because it's compounded monthly. So if you're getting 228,02, that's months. So you would have to divide that by 12, okay, to get your number of years. It was 19, something, I think. So yeah, he would have been 49 years old. Yes. Because you take this 100 of this million divided by 200,000.
And I thought from the time through this one, 12.
That's right. And then you're anyway behind. Yeah. Right, are we fine, guys? Last one, 4.8. 4.4. Oh, sorry, it's 4.4.
Wow, that's
On the, in the first part, it was the 8.5 over 8.5 it is. And then didn't put the result in the first one. No, because the N was on outside of the whole bracket. So that whole bracket. Okay, guys, exercise 4.4 was asking about this whole deferred payment thing, but actually number 6, it wasn't really a deferred payment thing. It was more like a timeline question. Now, guys, this is a nice kind of test or exam question because it is combining your grade 11 and your grade 12 stuff. Okay. So for 6, they're saying that takes out a student loan to pay for 3 years of university fees. I do think they could have been a bit clearer with the actual description of the situation. So they said the fees for the first year are 11,500 rand, second year 13, third year fees are 14,000. Then they're saying you may assume that the fees are payable on 1 January each year. Now what they mean by that is he's only getting that amount from the bank at the beginning of each year. Okay, he's not getting like a lump sum and then only paying the amount over. It's more like the bank is paying the amount straight to the university, that kind of thing. But we did chat about it in class. I think the majority of you guys heard me in terms of how you have to set up this question. So for A, they were just saying determine the loan amount at the end of the 3rd year after he's completed his degree, assuming that no amount has been repaid during the period that you were studying. And then they also gave the interest rate. So this is a timeline question, guys. At the beginning of the first, this is like a T0, right? He's getting the 11,500 rand from the bank. Okay, he's only going to pay that back 3 years later, or start paying it back 3 years later. So that amount is going to earn 3 years worth of interest. Right? Does that make sense? So 12 times 3. But then the second year's fees, he's not getting that straight away, he's getting that a year later. Okay? So that amount is only going to earn 2 years worth of interest. So 12 times 2. And then the last amount he's getting at the end of his the beginning of his 3rd year. So that amount is only going to earn 1 year's worth. And then with these timeline things, you guys remember if you invested an amount, then later you invested another amount, you would add it. All right, then if you withdrew some money, you would minus with that interest bracket. So that's what we did last year. So all of these would have to be added, increasing the amount of loan. Okay, then for B, they said he repays the loan over 6 years, equal monthly payments, starting at the end of January when you receive his first paycheck following the completion of his degree. So they're asking for X here. So this is now present value, right? Because now he's repaying his loan. The present value, guys, is now the answer from A. Okay, so if you got an incorrect answer for A, then we will see A. Unless it doesn't make sense. Unless it doesn't make sense, guys, if you got something like 20,000 here, then you should be able to recognize that can't be right, okay? If you're borrowing 11,000 and then 30,000 and then 14,000 plus interest, It can't be like 20,000 rand. Okay, it has to be kind of a realistic answer in order for you to get CAs from this. So maybe if you made a slip here, you put a 400 in the one, or you just did a typing error on the calculator. Then, so that was 700 rand, 770.71 each month. Now, number 8 was a deferred payment thing. Taking out a loan of 900,000 rand, but now she pays back the loan by equal monthly installments 15 years after the loan was drawn, but her first payment was made at the end of 6 months. Now guys, remember at the end of 6 months is actually only 5 months later, because normally the last or the first payment will be at the end of the first month. Alright? So end of the 6th month is going to be 5 months later. So remember, this is what we did on Friday. You need to first add 5 months worth of interest to the loan amount by just using your compound interest formula. And then you have to minus 5 from the number of payments. So I did the calculation here on the side, guys. The number of payments would be, it's every month for 15 years, right? So that's how you would normally calculate the number of payments. It would be 12 times a year for 15 years. But now, because she's not paying for the first 5 months, you have to subtract 5 from that. Okay, to give you 175. So guys, if you do the calculation in this formula, you need to remember that it's negative in the formula, right? So you unfortunately can't do this whole calculation in the formula. If you do this, negative 12 times 15 minus 5, are you going to get the same answer? Are you still going to get negative 175? This is going to give you negative 180, and then you'll minus another 5 from it. So this will give you negative 185, right? Because if you have a negative number and then you're subtracting another 5, you're going further into the negatives. So guys, you have to do this calculation on the side. Or if you want to do it like this, you will have to put brackets around it. If you want to do this whole number of payments calculation in your formula there, you will have to do it like that with square brackets around it. Otherwise, you're going to get a negative answer and then subtract another 5, which is actually going to make your number of payments more, not less. Okay, so that's very important, guys. So then, like we did on Friday, you have your 5 months interest added, and then your 5 payments less on the side. And then, did anyone get that answer? 2514.79. So guys, number 9, I think they might have tripped a few of you guys up. They were saying 9 months after the loan, she makes an arrangement with the bank that her repayment starts 9 months after taking out the loan. Right? Now this was quarterly. So guys, 9 months is 3 quarters, right? Do we agree with that? But when would she normally make her first payment? At the end of the first quarter. Okay? So if she's now making her first payment 3 quarters after getting the amount, it's actually only 2 quarters later. Right? This question always comes in every single class that I've had before. Okay, so 9 months after the loan was drawn, we're talking about quarters now, guys. 9 months is 3 quarters. But she would normally make her payment at the end of the first quarter. So she's making her first payment at the end of 3 quarters. That's only 2 quarters later than normal. Like what we said here, at the end of 6 months is 5 months later. At the end of 3 quarters is 2 quarters later. Alright, normally she would make her first payment at the end of the first quarter, so at the end of the first 3 months. Now she's paying 6 months after that, which is 2 quarters. Then for this one, I'm not sure why I didn't do it here. I just put the X on the left-hand side. Doesn't really matter. Alright, so you have your number of payments. Sorry, it was, let me just check here. 7 years quarterly, so that is why for my number of payments, I said the normal number of payments would be 7 times 4, but now she's making 2 payments less. Alright, so 28 minus 2, so that's the 26 there. So the number of payments then in your present value formula will be 26, and you need to add 2 quarters worth of interest to your loan amount, that is 2 million.
Who are you?